Hello, this is Hazel from C-Trax Customer Support. This is a short video designed to explain the differences between version 2.18 and 2.19 of the Excel Designer software. The main change is the ability to choose the fonts that can be used in the schematic editor and all the reports that can be produced. What this means is that in addition to having prettier, more readable circuit diagrams and printed reports, you've got the ability to search for text strings when they're output to a PDF file. But before I show you how to set up those new features, I'd like to show you something cool in the artwork editor. If you look in the View Control dialog bar, you'll see you've got a new checkbox which is called Track ID. Now if I turn that on, you'll see all the tracks get their signal names or their internal instance numbers shown. So here we've got a track called, or a signal called Fred, which is obviously disappearing off the screen. Now if we hold down the scroll bar so that we can pan, if you watch the signal names or the net IDs on the screen, you'll see as you move the screen they're moving, and so you can follow the track along without having to pick it up and grab hold of it, and then you can see where it's going, and we can follow Fred all the way along, and then it's going across and so on. And what you can also see, as well as the tracks have got the signal names or net IDs, the copper fill around the perimeter, it also tells you what net the copper fill is joined to. Now if you don't like it, you just switch it off. But I think that's quite a useful tool if you're trying to follow a track right across the board from one side to another. So let's go back and have a look at the schematic fonts and how to set them up, and also the reports that also use the user definable fonts. Here I've got a printout of the parts list from a big job, and the text is quite small at the moment, but you can see all the columns, and you can also see something which you have not been able to do before, is the ability to specify headers and footers in all your reports. So here we've got the job name at the top and a user defined header on the right hand side, and then as we go down through the report, I've chosen to put the page number at the bottom right, but you can also specify what goes in on the centre and also on the left hand side. Now although we can see all the text in this report, you may find that the text is a little bit small, so you can make it bigger. And here is one I prepared earlier, which is output with a 16-point Times New Roman font. Now you can see that the font is bigger, but because we've got a preset size of paper, the columns have had to be truncated to fit in. And what the software does is it truncates as few columns as it has to get the most of the text in. And when it does truncate a column, you'll see these little red brackets on the end of the field so that you know they've been truncated. And then you can scroll on down through and so on. So all of that can be set up, so we'll have a look at how that's done now. So we need to go up to the File System Setup window. Now when that's opened, the first thing you'll notice is that it's totally changed in appearance, but all the information that's in that window is exactly the same as what you had before. You just need to expand the various settings if you want to make any changes. Now what we've got here are the fonts and text report formatting, which are the new things, but before I look at those, I did just want to show you under the design file options, you're used to having the autosave switched on with an interval, and what's always happened in the past, the jobs of the autosave jobs have been saved in the same folder that your job is saved in. So if anything goes wrong with that folder, you've lost your job and you've also lost your backup. So what you've now got is a new checkbox which allows you to save the autosave file to a different directory or a different hard disk even. So you just tick that checkbox and then set up whatever directory it is you want to use to store your auto-saved files. If you want to change it, you just click and use the little browse button on the right hand side, and that allows you to navigate around your system to find the drive and folder that you want to use for the autosave files. So finally, we have a look at how to set up the fonts for the schematic editor and the reports. So we expand the font setting, and the first entry defines what fonts will be used for the schematic editor and any output tasks that use the Windows printers. If you will be photo plotting a schematic, which not many people will, photo plotters can't accept Windows fonts. So if you ever do have to use something that doesn't accept Windows fonts, then it will revert back to the old vector font, which is what you've always seen in the schematic editor before. So if you want to choose whatever font it is you want to use on the schematic, come over and click the browse button. And then you get your normal font selection window come up, and from there you can choose any of the fonts that are available and what style of font, bold or italics and so on. Just one word about the size, that isn't relevant at all in the schematic editor because all your text heights are controlled by the attribute values. And then if you're adding non-electrical, then you specify the height it goes in at. So it's only the font and the style that you're choosing. When you output to reports, you can choose a different font. So again, you just use the browse button down here, and that's where you choose whatever size it is you want. Now, the fonts are really only designed to be set up once, and then you stick with those fonts, because if you start changing them midstream, you'll find that some fonts are wider than other fonts, and so when you're positioning your text, you could find that things start overlapping. So make a decision as to what font you're going to use and then stick with it. And if you want to revert back to the old style vector font, then you just tick this box, and then all your schematics will look like they've always looked like. And again, if you've got the schematic open when you make these changes, you need to close it down and then reopen it for the changes to flow through. And then under the text report formatting, this is where I mentioned you can specify headers and footers for any of your reports. So you've got the left text, the center text and the right text on the header. And again, to change any of them, you just click your right hand side of the field, and then all the options that are available appear. So if you want to specify a user defined field, you choose that, and then underneath you type in whatever it is that you want to appear on the text header. Other options, you can leave it blank if you want to. You can insert the job file name, the date and time, the report subject, page numbers, or the software version, and that's the software version of Excel Designer, obviously. And then any of those choices are available for the left, centre and right, and the same for the footer. And that is how you set up the fonts for the schematic. I mentioned earlier that if you output the schematic or the reports to a PDF file, then you've got the ability to search for text strings now. So just a quick example, I've just opened up a PDF file that I've created using the Windows 10 output to PDF file from the Windows printer settings. And if we just go up to the search and let's say we want to find R4, there it is highlighted for us. So that's something that can be quite useful. Well, I hope that that has given you a quick flavour of what's in version 2.19. There is, if you have a look in the README file that's issued with the update, you'll find everything written down in a lot more detail. But at least now when you read through it, you'll have some idea of what it's talking about. And if you've got any suggestions for future videos, then let me know and I'll give it a go. Thanks for listening if you're still here. And I'll maybe talk to you on the phone one day. Bye.